Good morning. Today we will start a series of episodes and interviews with very, very interesting persons who are authors and visionaries at the same time. And today I'm happy to present my good friend Tom Hartz, who wrote 8 books, and all the books is about medicine and somewhere in the middle between science fiction and his vision. Tom, I'm happy to meet you here and tell us more about yourself.
Well, thank you very much, Leon, for this opportunity. I um, I don't know quite how to introduce myself other than that honestly, I really don't know what I'm doing. I I retired from a full-time job in 2009, and I thought, well, maybe I can get some consulting jobs or something, and it didn't work out. Didn't work out. So then I thought, well, maybe I could write a book. So so I did, and and it was very interesting. I worked on it for about a couple years, maybe. Kept my mind busy, and so yes, I did that, and that was just before the pandemic that I published my first book. And then during the pandemic, just to keep my oh um, the spirits up, I wrote, I think, 3 or 4 other books relating to how to get through the pandemic. Um, and then, I wrote a few others that I thought might be helpful to people beyond me. I think um, the greatest gift I might give in my books is my thoughts and my feelings. Um, I I was thinking about this the other day that my parents, I knew very little about them as people. Um, yes, I was around them for many years or for some years, but I didn't know their, they kept their thoughts and their feelings to themselves. And that was a sign of the times at that time. So here I am. Um, what do I have to give the public? What do I have to give myself? Is to be honest, um, and give what I had. I've heard it somewhere where writers write what they know, and painters paint what they feel. And in my books, I really do both. I I put down my thoughts and my feelings.
Yeah, it's
So
very, very interesting, very interesting.
good,
Um,
thanks.
yeah, and so what really driven you to write about healthcare? You are engineer, you are not physician, but as I know, you are at the same time a patient. So what driven you to write about healthcare and to enter into very, very specific field and actually to start to create some new world where you think patient and physician could thrive?
Well, thank you. Yeah, I can answer that really very, very quickly, that I have been around illness all my life. My dad had Parkinson's, he was diagnosed in the year I was born. Um, and throughout the years, I have also had, um, I guess it would be in the term of mental health conditions. And so So, and I've been around some of my family members have chronic health conditions. And it really bothers me that I can't do anything about um, their health, but I can work on myself. Yeah, I can do that, and I do in my books. Um, okay, so okay, why do I write about healthcare? Well, what I learned in researching my books, there aren't many books written by patients on how healthcare might be improved. And so that's why I wrote Paging Doctor Within. That was my first book. And it's probably the most poorly written book you'd ever want to see because I at that time I didn't have any training in how to write, and I learned a lot during the pandemic. I took courses, and hopefully I'm doing better these days. But um, I don't know. It depends on who picks up the book. But the whole thing is that I blurted out in many, many words how I, as a patient, think that healthcare could be improved for what it's worth. Um,
Yeah, so
so,
you wrote it from your heart. I read your book. It's really written not straightforward, I would say. A lot of philosophical issues there that I have to think, and people don't like to think a lot about what they're reading. But actually, what I expect, a lot of innovative ideas inside. So you can just take it and develop further in different books, because I think its book is full of innovative ideas that could be applied at some point in the future to development and fixing of healthcare. So I think, from my point of view, it's the greatest book that could be valued in the future when time will come. So I know you finished your new book. Could you tell more about it?
okay, yes, the book is written, and the book is titled, let's see now, it's titled How to Journal Through Tough Times. And I'm just putting it into the publishers now. It should be out, in a week or so. And, Leon, I really had a hard time from 2015 to just recently. Um, we in our country in the United States had a lot of political turmoil starting in 2015, and then through those years. And then in 2019 and 2020, we had the pandemic. And then there was a lot of upheaval and more political turmoil and upheaval. Um, and then I watched the news way too much. So anyway, I was getting blow by blow descriptions of all what was going on. And I was becoming more and more low. And then I had the idea just about a year ago about why not write about it, Tom? Because I've been journaling now for about 30 years, privately.
Yes.
And in this book that I'm describing, I write my thoughts and my feelings of what it was like for me going through 2015 to the present. And I didn't realize I had so much bottled up inside of me. Um, I'm glad I wrote the book. Uh, Hopefully, it'll help somebody. But I tell my story, And then I thought, well, it might be handy to give some prompts for people who want to do their own journaling. So, and I add some few other things in there too, but I don't know if it's going to help anybody else out, but it sure helped me get me out of that muck and mire. And I've got a action plan for when these events or anything like it might come up again in the future. And I like how I came to solutions instead of just flopping around in all this turmoil. It was just not helpful to me. So that's why I did what I did. And I wrote the book for what it's worth. And it probably people are going to say that, Tom, you shouldn't have wrote that. You know, you shouldn't think like that. You know, why do you think like that? You know, well, that's who I am. Um, so I wrote from my heart in that book.
So
Uh,
it looks like you wrote for yourself, for people
yeah,
like yourself.
yes.
So you have very specific audience in mind who could be interested in this book and get a lot of value from this, right? And
I
could you
hope
tell
so.
a little bit more about this audience? Who are they? Who are the people whom this book is dedicated to and whom this book will create totally new capabilities how to manage their work?
Okay, yeah. Well, as I wrote in my book, that it seems like just about everybody has gotten over the pandemic and the turmoils, and very few people talk about it these days. But I think there is some people out there who are still troubled with the PTSD that may have occurred because of being on the front lines of having to see all what went on. And there may be some COVID long haulers too who are just they can't get over the effects of the COVID. And 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 any in my book I talk about how what happened traces back to when I was a kid or earlier in my life, and it brought up those memories. So it might help some other people work out. Um, if, I say that journaling through and out of tough times. People don't want to stay in tough times forever, but if they can find a way out of tough times, at least for a day or maybe even longer, but hopefully it'll help somebody.
Yeah, very good. Thank you. Very good answer. And you said you are thinking differently. So what does it mean? Why people blame you for thinking differently? I cannot accept this blame because everybody has a free will to think as he wish or she. But specifically in your case, what kind of different thinking make you stronger in your life?
Well, I think, okay, honestly, I can give you an answer. Some years ago, let's say about 30 or more years ago, I needed some mental health, and I needed some help in that area. And I had multiple things going on, and I found that I virtually had to take myself apart on the inside and challenge all my old beliefs and all of my things that people have taught me in the past of what I should do or what I shouldn't do, how I should act as a man, or what I should think about. Um, and I think all that garbage got me sick because I was trying to be somebody that I'm not. So what I did was like having to declutter a house where I threw out the things that weren't helpful and I kept the things that were helpful. So I I don't fit in, Leon. I just don't fit in many places and many audiences, but I am who I am. And in my books, I hope if there's any takeaway at all for people to be themselves. I think one thing that I've learned in all my introspection is that once I fixed my insides, my outsides got better all by themselves. And so, but that's my story. Everybody does. One of the biggest things I learned in writing this book about the pandemic is people are going to do what they're going to do, whether I like it or not. So there.
Yeah, right. Interesting. Yeah, amazing. But people usually are afraid to be themselves. And this is recently I had a very interesting conversation with one professor in artificial intelligence. And he said that computational intelligence, that is artificial intelligence, and non-computational intelligence, that is consciousness, we call it consciousness or awareness. There is a gap between them, a huge gap. And this gap is filled by people who cannot be themselves because they are afraid to be themselves.
Yep.
And they are not fully conscious, but at the same time, they are not artificial. So this is the main problem. It's a huge level of people that we meet every day. So how did your book address this problem? Not specifically AI, but I know you wrote about AI as well. Yeah. But specifically, did you think about this problem and how we can fix these through the books, lectures, and delivering some innovations to our society to make people more open and more yourself or themselves?
Okay. Well, I heard somewhere that everyone has a public self and a private self. And when the two of those don't match, there's stress. That I've heard it many times over and over in in my circles, and that people pleasing and things of that, and doing it just, what are the neighbors going to think, all that kind of stuff. And I don't know about others, but I can tell you, Leon, that it takes courage to be myself. I can tell you 1,000 reasons why I am what I am. When I was a boy, I stuttered so badly I couldn't say my name. People made fun of me because I was obese as a boy and most of my life. People made fun of me all the time, and I got beaten. Sometimes not beaten up physically, but beaten up emotionally so that there was just a little flicker of a flame inside of me. And and here I am today. I'm taking a risk with you, Leon. I'm scared to death. And I am. My hands are perspiring. I'm shaking, but yet I'm here. I got dressed this morning and the courage to show up.
I really
And
appreciate your courage. That, yeah, we were talking about it before in our last meeting, and I really appreciate it. And you know, no any sign that tells about what you said. So you look amazing. So how are you doing
well,
this?
well, it 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 takes constant effort, Leon, to battle who and what I think other people want of me and to be my genuine self. And what you see here today is what you get. I was trying to think, well, what should I wear? Should I wear a tie or whatever? And then I thought, well, why not just wear a regular shirt, just like I wear every day, you know? But there's this constant. Um, I I don't know if you ever remember the Sesame Street where they had those older gentlemen and they were criticizing all the time. That goes on in my head all the time. I should do this, I shouldn't do that. And so I'm challenging those and I'm going to write about them in the future. I'm going to more or less pour my heart out in books. Um, and my insides are going to appear on the page for people to read. And if they want to explore their own selves, they can do so.
Amazing.
But
It really requires a lot of courage to do it.
oh yeah, I'm scared to death to be here today, Leon. I am, and and I'm going to write about my fears in the future because I think there's a lot of people. I and here's something that I shouldn't say either, but I think inside of me now I'm 75 years old, but I still am reacting like a little boy where I don't know anything about or very little about you other than what I see in your posts. And so and the world is scary to me. As a little boy, everything I was scared about, and some people toughen up and some people don't, but I think even underneath the toughest guys or the toughest people, there is a little boy or a little girl inside.
Yeah, right. I think a lot of people from our audience will share your thoughts and share your emotions, and this is very important that you have the courage to show it, to write about it, and to share it with the audience, with the people you're talking to. I would like to get back to your first book, Paging Dr. Withing. Could you share with us some the main idea behind this book that goes through whole the book like a skeleton? So could you elaborate a little bit more about it on it?
Okay. Well, the probably the most important part of that book is various ways to listen to the patient. And in my book, I eventually get around to the patient listening to themselves. I I think all the apparatus, the wearable devices and smart devices that I talk about in the book, are kind of like training wheels to get people, if they want to stop ignoring the pain. They ignoring emotional pain, ignoring physical pain, just all the things. And in there, I do describe a bunch of technology that could be used. And um, so listening to the patient, or the patient listening to themselves, and monitoring what I see is, I don't think the healthcare industry is looking at the big picture. When a patient comes in with stomach problems, as example, they go to a physician, and the physician looks at the physical side. But how many doctors ask, well, is there anything else going on in your life that might be causing this discomfort in your stomach? And the patient might say, yeah, now you say that, my wife just died a little while ago, or maybe another answer might be, yeah, I'm really having troubles at work with this coworker. It turns my stomach how they can do what they do. And that's a clue for the doctor to, turn my stomach. Um, and there's a lot of clues that can be done by looking at both the physical, the mental, what is it, the physical, the mental, and maybe even the spiritual side of a person, all at once. Not how many times has, let's just say, how many times does a person go into the doctor and they get shuffled from one doctor to the next, whether it's physical or mental or a combination thereof. you know I myself, I get frustrated, and then the doctors don't communicate with themselves, with each other. That's just no good. And I think there's better ways of doing it. And that's why I wrote my book, Paging Dr. Within. And my wife has mentioned that I'm about 10 years ahead of my time. For many years, for most of my life, I've been like that. And it's a tough place to be, because um, I can see things that could be, but they're not ready to be implemented yet. So what do I do? I'm an older person. So what I can do, that I can blurt out these things now while I'm still alive, for others to maybe pick up on later in life.
Yeah, the problem that you raised is that people don't like themselves. They're not aware about of themselves, and they don't want to do it. For example,
No.
if something happened with my kids, I immediately take them to the physician, to the doctors. But if something happened to me, I procrastinate. So I don't like myself. I don't want, so I think, okay, maybe I don't have time now. I'm very busy. I'm swamped with many things. So maybe I'll do it tomorrow, maybe in a week, maybe it will disappear by itself. But actually, we don't feel and we don't listen to ourselves. And this is what I took from your book, that it's very important to listen not only to Amazon Alexa, and but also to listen to yourself and share with myself my ideas, and how can I keep my healthcare, keep care on myself, I would say. And this is very important, and this is really for people don't do it. Forgotten.
Oh,
Forgotten.
yeah. Yeah, Paging Doctor Within is a book currently that doctors don't want to look at and patients don't want to look at.
Right. So
But it's
so
still
if
out there.
patient doesn't want to care about himself, why I am like doctor should care about this patient? So
Mhm.
what happens is only transaction. There is no any real relationships between patient and doctors.
Yeah.
It's thousands of startups were created around this problem, but this problem is still in place and even become worse.
Yes, I honestly think it's getting worse. Um, and uh, it, but again, one thing I've learned in my life that I can't change other people, but I can change myself.
Right.
And one thing I can do in my time here on Earth is to write and do videos like I'm doing now with you to put out these ideas. And um, I guess it's like that. What is that? That story, Johnny Appleseed, where you put out the seeds and maybe it'll grow, maybe it won't. But I feel good, Leon, knowing that I'm giving my best to the current population and maybe as a legacy in the future. I think people, I don't want an obituary that says, well, he went here to this college, he worked here and worked there. If people read my book, they're going to know who I am as a person. And that's important to me, I guess. Um, at least they know who, who, who I was or who I am. And I think by being myself, I'm in much better health these days than I was when I was trying to be somebody that I'm not. Um,
And I
I
think it's very important to learn how to care about ourselves, how to be ourselves. And what I know, a lot of courses, a lot of information about how to treat disease, but there is no information that cover all four elements of
right.
our self-treatment. As you
Mhm.
said, spiritual, physical, physiological, and mental. And this is very important because it looks like everything is separated. I have to take this, but it is not connected to that. So
Yeah.
it's very important. Maybe your book can help people to learn or even to make business around it, to offer people to learn how to care themselves,
Mhm.
how to actually awake.
Yeah. Yeah. I what I learned that what we're talking about as far as looking at the big picture is nothing new. There was I think it was a Greek physician, uh, uh, Galen. He, he talked about exactly what we're talking about here today. You got to look at the big picture, and somewhere it got lost. And I also did in my research of that book, Paging the Book Within, that I found out where in history there became a split of the physical and all the other stuff. The emotional, psychological, um, spiritual. That got split off. But I think for total health, it'd be good if there be some way somehow of looking at the big picture all at once to see what is ailing on the inside. And okay, here's something. in chapter 1, it talks about that the determinants of health, and these are put out by the World Health Organization, and I cover them in chapter 1. But there's way more than just the physical symptoms. There is psychological, being with other people. You got to have some amount of sociability, and also to environment. I think if and all these things can be monitored with various technology, but we inside of ourselves have a doctor within that when something causes us discomfort or stress or pain, we feel an ouch, and we ignore that ouch.
Right.
And then
That's
we
right.
get sick. And I don't want to get sick anymore. I was sick. I was really sick, and I feel bad. It brings tears to my eyes right now, but I'm not where I was, and I don't want to ever go back. So there. I don't know. What you see is what you get here today, Leon.
That's amazing, amazing conversation. And we are coming to the end of our amazing meeting. And I would like to, I think also our audience is interested to hear about your next book. What you said already, what you plan to put on new pages. And but could you elaborate on it a little bit? So exactly what you have in mind about your next book, and what you would like to share with people, and maybe teach people or coach people through this book what they have to do.
Okay.
To save themselves.
Well, only if they want to, though. The biggest thing, the biggest thing is that they have to want to get better. I write my books for those people who want to get better and stay better. Okay, so answering your question, as I said, I'm going to be publishing very shortly this book called How to Journal Through Tough Times. Okay, so that's a good deal. And then I'm going to write some more of those on smaller topics, like a couple come to my mind about anxiety, and I can describe my anxiety, and I can give prompts for others who want to do that. And worrying. Oh, I tell you, I worry. If there's something to be worried about, I'll worry about it. So I can write about that, and write about stuttering. I talk fluently now, but it's been a bugaboo all my life. And I can talk about other health conditions that I have had. But what I think, Leon, before I die, and I'm not going to die anytime soon, so don't look for it. But
up to 120.
Yeah, there we go. Good.
Yeah.
And but I honestly think, Leon, there is more to this world than what we see, hear, and I think we're all interconnected. People, animals, plants, all that kind of stuff. And I want to explore how to get a better understanding of this interconnectability, and maybe even access. I think one of the greatest things would be to access that the hidden part of myself. And now this might sound strange, but I think I've got more capabilities and more, I guess you'd call them powers, that are within me that are hidden. I like to talk and well, I don't know if it makes any sense, but talk or communicate with my hidden part. It even goes beyond, the public self and private self, but there's another part of me that is the hidden part. And and that might be where I'll find God. I'm still open. Well, that's another book I'm going to write is my experiences with religion and
Mm.
God and finding my own way. But I figure, what do I have to lose? I don't have a public profile anymore. Um, so I just give. I just give, and if anybody finds them useful, that'd be real good. If they don't, well, that's too bad. I did my best. So I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, thank you very much. Magnificent. So thank you, Tom. It was an amazing conversations. And we had a meeting with an amazing person, very bright person, patient advocate, visionary, and author of 8 books in healthcare, Tom Garz. So if you are interested to buy his book, please go to Amazon, right, Tom?
Yeah, Amazon. Yes.
And there you can read or buy books written by Tom. Amazing books. I really recommend. Not easy to read, but very interesting philosophy inside. It could help. It could help. Thank you, Tom. Thank you very
Well,
much.
thank you. Thank you. And
Glad to meet you.
oh I will also add that in addition to Amazon, my books are on a lot of other online retailers like Barnes and Noble and others. So if you can't find me someplace, then you can always email me at tgideas@gmail.com. And I'm always able to answer questions too, if you want.
Mm-hmm. Okay, amazing. So I put this link into their YouTube channel. Thank you very much, Tom, and have a great day and great week. Amazing. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Leon. I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, we'll see. Definitely, we will see.